Welcome back everyone, welcome to another Fat for Weight Loss recipe video. Today I'm showing you how to make cheesecake chocolate brownies. These are super delicious. This is one of my all-time go-to favorites. It's basically a chocolate brownie with a little bit of a cheesecake on top, and you're going to mix it together and it looks delicious and it tastes just as good. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is mix all of the dry ingredients. So good rule of thumb is mixing all of the dry ingredients together before you mix any of the wet ingredients, because you want all of those ingredients to be combined really well before you actually start adding eggs or butter or things like that. I have 2/3 of a cup of almond flour, and what I'm doing is I'm just dusting it into the bowl so that all of the ingredients are really fine and really easy to mix together. I'm just going to sift all of the ingredients through this little sieve. Now it's nothing special, you know, this is just a normal sieve that would come with a mixing bowl set. I have a 1/4 of a cup of Dutch cocoa powder here. Now you can use regular cocoa powder, now this is unsweetened. The reason why I use Dutch cocoa powder is because it gives a little bit of a sweeter taste. Regular cocoa powder can actually be quite bitter, whereas this one, it gives a really rich chocolatey taste without the bitterness. So that goes in there like that. Now this is the part where you might actually have to get your fingers in there to break up the clumps. So I have a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I don't have to put the salt through the actual sieve. I have some baking powder here. I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder. That goes in there like that. That'll get sieved through. Now I also have Nuvia baking sweetener. Now this stuff is 1-to-1 replacement for sugar. So if you were used to using sugar on the and then you go to the ketogenic diet and you go, oh, I don't know how to use erythritol, I don't know how to use liquid stevia. The best thing about this Nuvia product is that you can switch it out 1-for-1 for sugar. It bakes and tastes exactly like sugar. So it's really good to use. I'm going to be using 3/4 of a cup of this sweetener in this recipe. If you do want to get this sweetener, you can get it in the link of the description of this video. If you wanted to use erythritol, you would use 1 cup, because erythritol is only 70% as sweet as sugar. Okay, so we'll put that aside. So just with a regular rubber spatula, I'm just going to give these ingredients a quick mix through so that the color of all of the ingredients looks the same. Okay, so now that that is mixed together and you can see that the color is really consistent in that, then I'm going to set that aside. I have 1/2 cup of butter here. So 1/2 cup of butter, which works out to be just over 100 grams or 3.5 to 4 ounces of butter. I have about 5 squares of baker's chocolate. Now you can also use any type of chocolate that is unsweetened that you can find. If you live in Australia, you can probably also use the 90% Lindt chocolate. That is, pretty much sugar-free. So that you're going to keep it in its squares like that. I'm going to heat this butter. Now you can do it one of 2 ways. You can do it in the microwave, or you can do it over a double boiler. If you don't want to use a microwave, then you would put this over the stove with some heated water coming through, and that butter would melt. Okay, so that's perfect. The butter has been in the microwave for 1 minute and it's really nice and hot. You can see it's kind of bubbling a little bit. Now, what I didn't mention before about the unsweetened chocolate was that you need 50 grams. 50 grams is around about 1.8 ounces, so nearly 2 ounces of chocolate. And you're just going to drop it into the hot butter like so. And what that does is it tempers the chocolate and it brings it up to the temperature of the butter. So it's going to increase the temperature of the chocolate. We're going to leave it for 2 minutes. Don't touch it in this period. You're going to leave it, and then after that, once the chocolate has melted, we're going to mix it through. We're going to add the eggs. It'll be more of a room temperature by that stage. Add the eggs, give that a bit of a whisk, and then we're going to add it to the dry ingredients that we've got over here. And then we're going to move on to the cheesecake topping. Okay, so I've let a little bit of time pass and I'm dying to see what the butter and chocolate mixture is, if it's melted enough. So I've got a spoon here and I'm just going to give it a bit of a mix. Yep, so the chocolate is definitely melted enough. It's just going to combine through the butter really easily. What we're going to do is we're going to add this to the dry ingredients, and then we're going to add 3 eggs in and a little bit of vanilla extract, and that's going to be the essence of our chocolate brownie base. And that is going to mix in really well with our dry ingredients here. So I'm just going to pour this in. If you want to get the whole lot, just make sure you use a rubber spatula or whatever else you can use to get all of that butter, all of that melted butter and the chocolate into the mixture. So we'll set that aside. Now you can give this a mix and get it, incorporated a little bit. And then what we're going to do is add the eggs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crack one egg at a time into this mixture and just give it a bit of a mix through to start with. So as I mix, that's getting really thick. What I might do is add another egg in there as well. What you might want to do at this time is to make sure that your oven is set to 180 degrees Celsius or 355 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want to get a baking tray like this and line it with some parchment paper. So that's mixing together really nicely. I'm going to add the last egg, and I'm also going to drop 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract into this. This is going to make, the vanilla is sort of like the salt of the recipe, and it gives it a really good depth of flavor. So that goes in there like that. That looks really great to me now. So as you can see, it's got a pretty thick consistency. That's because we've added a couple of eggs in there and the butter's probably come down to more of a room temperature now. So I'm going to pour this into my pre-prepared tray here. And I'm going to use my rubber spatula to help me do this. So look at that golden brown glossy brownie mixture. This is absolutely fantastic. This brownie I think is probably one of the best recipes on my website, and we're going to try and level this out a little bit. Now you can still use your plastic spatula for this, or your silicone spatula, whatever you've got. This has just got a flat blade on one side and it comes off at about a 35-degree angle. So usually what people do is they use these to ice cakes with, but today I'm going to make sure this brownie is mega flat by using this. So all I do is I just drag it along the top and I just push it back and forth, just to make sure that this is super level. So that when we put the cheesecake on top, that it's all going to be one really nice level layer of brownie and cheesecake. And then we're going to try and mix it together a little bit. But as long as the layers are, 2 separate layers, then I think you should be fine. You don't really need to do this, but this looks good for photos. We're going to move on to the cream cheese part of this recipe. Now, you can use 250 grams or you can use 300 grams of cream cheese. It doesn't matter too much. Either of those variations are going to work really well. Usually blocks of cream cheese, I believe, come in 8.5 ounces in the US, which is about 250 grams, which is about this size. So you can use just one of these and be done with it. I like using a tiny little bit more, just because it gives an extra bit of layer on top of the brownie, but you don't have to. You can just use one block. I'm going to put it into this mixing bowl. I'm going to put this whole block in there. I'm also going to add a little bit of this second block here as well. You don't have to, but I find that it adds a little bit of more height. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this cream cheese up just by itself. Then I'm going to add some more of the Nuvia sweetener. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of Nuvia sweetener. I'm going to add a little bit more vanilla extract, and I'm also going to add 1 more egg to this mixture, and we're going to put that on top of the brownies. Then we're going to put it in the oven. What I should have said is to keep a little section of the brownie out, so that when you put the cheesecake on top, what we're going to do is create a swirl on top. Now what we're going to do is we're going to spoon this mixture on top. Now you want to make sure that this mixture is really nice and light and fluffy before you do this, because otherwise it's going to wreck that texture as you spoon it on top. Again, I'm going to use my 1/4 flat spatula to level it out, and then I'm going to show you a little trick on how to get that really nice design on top. Now this is where we start again with this flat angled spatula to try and get this really nice and level. Okay, that's looking pretty good to me. So you want it really nice and level on top. You want that cheesecake on top really nice and level before you start doing this. Now, we're going to take a little bit of a time. We're just going to drop about a small dollop in 6 different places along this cheesecake. Along there like that, like that, like that, and like that. Now what you want to do is you want to take the end of your, this level spatula like this, and you want to run it through the actual cheesecake. So we're going to go lengthways along the side like this, and just pull it back a little bit, come back, And do the exact same thing through the other pieces of chocolate that you've left on top like that. You want to sort of create a little bit of a racetrack on top. So if you get the kids involved in this one, they're really going to love creating racetracks on top of your desserts. And then we go back the other way. So we go sideways and then we go horizontally as well. So we go back through this way and we're going to take all of that with it. Again, creating that sort of racetrack style. So we're going to put this in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius, 355 degrees Fahrenheit, until you put a toothpick in the middle and it comes out clean. You still want it kind of gooey, but since there is cheesecake on top, you definitely do want it well cooked. So we're going to chuck it in and see how long it takes for the toothpick to come out clean. Alrighty, so we've got this out of the oven. It's been about 30 minutes at 180 for this to come to be totally cooked. And as you can see, it is looking delicious. So one of the sides has become a little bit brown on one of the sides, and it's sort of it's inflated a little bit in the oven. But what's going to happen is once it comes back down to room temperature, it'll go back to its normal size and everything will be okay. So don't feel like it's going to explode in the oven or anything. It's going to be totally okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to cool down. Then we'll take a little bite and I'll show you what it tastes like, what it looks like from the inside. If you want to get the link for this sweetener using the Nuvia sweetener, then the link of this is in the description of this video. It's been a great sweetener to work with in this recipe, and it works really, really well for brownies and cheesecakes and baked good, things like that. So let's let this cool and we'll come back to it in a little while and give it a taste test. All right, so the brownies cooled down a little bit now. It's probably not completely cooled down, but I just couldn't wait to taste it. What I want you to see here is that there is a really nice layer of the cheesecake on top and then a really nice layer of the brownie on the bottom. What I wanted to do is just take a little slice off the end here like this, what it looks like on the inside. So as you can see, there is a really nice layer. Now it's still kind of warm, so it's going to fall apart on me, but that's fine. But as you can see here, it's got a really nice layer of the cheesecake on top and a brownie on the bottom. So let's give it a try. Yeah, look, this is fantastic. I can't believe that a cheesecake can go so well on top of a brownie. So if you do want to make this recipe, make sure you get it in the description below. So again, my name is Aaron Day. This has been a fat weight loss recipe video, and I'll see you next week.